What's up, Michigan? Welcome back inside the State Champ Sports Network studio. You know what time it is. It's time for Hangtime, baby. It's time to get back into it. Another episode here and a lot going on in the world of high school boys basketball here in the great state of Michigan. We've got several segments that we do. And by the way, my name is Lorne Plant. This is TJ Kelley. We're here every week. We're also going to have Scott Bernstein roll in on occasion to talk about some things that he's burning on. So we still got a lot of great content coming up this season, and things are really starting to heat up. First segment out of the gate, we call it Paint Pontifications. So first off, we had a big game, Chelsea and Saline going at it. Chelsea gets the 59-57 win in the SEC White.
I'll tell you what, Joey Cabana, the senior, all-conference player, all-state player, playing for his mom. You know what? He really stepped it up in front of the home crowd. Came up with a big steal at the end there, and there was a possession game. Wound up coming up with a steal. He also hit some big threes in the second half, had some layups. So between him and Jake Stevens, they accounted for 51 of the 59 points, or maybe it was 53, but let's say this, it was a pretty solid number. But that's a pretty strong two-headed monster with Jake Stevens and Joey Cabana.
Well, speaking of monsters, the Catholic League Central Division is it again. And, there's a lot of been talk about, what's wrong with Brother Rice. Well, they play in a very tough division. They just took on UD Jesuit 56-50. Brother Rice fell in that one. UDJ playing great.
Yeah. Hey, again, Leroy Blyden to me is one of the most outstanding juniors. He's a name to know, obviously, in the future, saying that obviously has a senior year to go. But you have to add in some of the other guys on that team. Young Ryan Hatcher, he's a guy that's really stepped up, bought his time,
right,
as a freshman, sophomore, junior, and now he's here as a senior. And I tell you what, you put in all that hard work and you don't take advantage of it your senior year, or if you're given that opportunity, that's what you live for. That's what you're working hard for. So shout out to him. Shout out to Xavier Johnson. Obviously, you want to shout out to Pat Donnelly, the head coach of the Cubs. I like to kid him and say the house that Donnelly built. But yeah, he's done a fantastic job in the 15 years that he's been there. So yeah, the Catholic League's so tough.
And the interesting thing is, UDJ's had so much talent that you don't really have opportunities for some of these guys, but they have to go up against them in practice every year. When they finally get their opportunity, they're so battle-tested already. It's not surprising that they're stepping up right away.
Yeah, iron sharpens iron. Not only that, you get to study against, along with some of these guys. And when you get guys like Cassius Winston, who's going to stop back on a 7 Mile, during the summer or whenever he's back home, and he's going to say, hey, look, do it like this, do it like that. And just giving somebody where they can feel, let's say this a correlation just based off of age, where it's like, oh wow, all right, So yeah, shout out to what
Wilson
they've done.
After him.
And then Sonny Wilson. I mean, UD Jesuits quickly becoming point guard.
No doubt. All right, let's move into a little Mr. Basketball talk. This is the time of year where we start firing up who are going to be some of the candidates. There's obviously a wealth of talent here in the state of Michigan in the senior class. Let's talk about one definitely that we've talked about for so many years out of Grand Rapids Catholic Central, Fat Brooks.
Yeah, Darrell Brooks. He's been in the limelight longer than any other, senior or the player in the class of 2024, obviously winning a state championship a couple years ago. But then not only that, making his name returning to the Breslin Center. Obviously, they didn't have the success last year, but headed to Michigan, that's that's a big chunk of what I think goes into Mr. Basketball. Who's staying in state? Who's the best player? And not only that, you look at a kid like him where, leadership qualities, he's done it. He's producing his senior year. He's asked what TJ Meerman, the head coach at CC, is asking him to do. He's going out there and doing, hey, we need you to play center today. We need you to get more rebounds today. We need you to defend at the top of the key. And so, he's constantly growing into more of a leader. And, right now he'd be the number one candidate for Mr. Basketball.
Yeah, and for those of you who remember Tom Markowski, so Tom Markowski, the Detroit News guru for high school basketball and football, you name it, definitely basketball, worked for state champs for over 20 years. He would always say, if people had an opportunity, especially coaches, to see him at the Breslin Center, to see a player before their senior year at the Breslin Center and they play well, it goes a long way. Fat is someone we are familiar with.
Very, very familiar. And it doesn't happen very often where a player goes goes to the Breslin Center and then doesn't wind up, let's say, at least finishing in the top two of Mr. Basketball, in the final voting. So
no question about it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe somebody who we're still learning about, maybe somebody who maybe is not on your radar, Tyler Odie out of Saginaw Heritage.
I tell you what, Tyler Odie headed to Toledo. There are very few in the state that shoot it as well as him. He kind of got, a little hampered by an injury a year and a half ago. Wound up bouncing back, had a pretty solid junior year, but he wasn't really at full strength. I don't believe maybe until the end of the year. But he's on full throttle right now. But yeah, they wound up losing to Grand Blanc earlier in the week. But yeah, Tyler Odie averaging over 20 points. Saginaw Heritage only has 2 losses, which I think also combines into Mr. Basketball voting. What is your team record? And then it's one of those things where, Tyler Odie is definitely deserving of wherever he gets voted in the Mr. Basketball.
Well, let's pick up off that. Doris Martin out of Grand Blanc, the head coach, started 0-5, gets his first win against, obviously, a very good Saginaw Heritage team.
Yeah, no, shout out to him. Grand Blanc has been a fixture at the Breslin for the last 3 years, and so it's good to see that next page being able to turn the page to the next chapter.
Yeah,
and not only that, you look at Doris. Just getting that first win, that first varsity win, you kind of get the monkey off your back. Hey, now it's time to go out there and win and do what we do best. And the Bobcats have been very successful over that last few years.
All right, and another milestone, and that is Gary Barnes out of Goodrich, staple here in Michigan high school hoops, 500th win.
Yeah, hey, he's leading the Martians, the Goodrich Martians. I always like to say GB is a good friend of mine. I love talking with them. Sometimes we'll get caught on the phone for, 15, 20 minutes, and I'll say, hey, you want to go another 15 or 20? I can easily, just like to pick his brain. He's been around. There's not a lot that he hasn't seen. He is one of the best guys. If you want to go out there and talk about the heyday of Flint basketball, when you're talking about the 70s and the 80s when they were just dominating the state of Michigan. But hey, it'd be great to see Gary Barnes, great to see Goodrich, make that run to the Breslin. They are one of the top teams in Division II, so it's very practical to wind up seeing that happen. But at the most important, shout out to Barnes, Gary Barnes, shout out to his wife Stacy, shout out to his family, just being there. I know that they're to have a lot of support. If you are deciding to be a coach, because sometimes you got to go out there and maybe spend more time with your basketball team than you are with your actual team.
No doubt.
So
he's got some athletes. Let's move in to our next segment, which is Rankings Rationale. For those of you who don't know, you must be living under a rock. Of course, State Champs is giving you the top 25, the definitive top 25 in and out of the state. We love what BCAM's doing. They're breaking it down by division, and they've got their thing happening. But we take the top 25, best top 25 teams from the state, and sometimes small schools working their way in. Just depends on how well they're playing and what their team looks like. TJ's drop every Monday. Just go to statechampsnetwork.com, click on the rankings tab to see TJ's rankings. Let's talk about a few of the teams. Obviously, we mentioned Birmingham Brother Rice falling from 4 to 9, but I don't think you have a lot of concern about where Rice will end up when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I think that the Catholic League is just eating itself. They're what do you say? Cannibal. The cannibalization of the CHL Central. And I also say this: I don't think it matters what your record is going to be. I mean, if we look at Orchard Lake St. Mary's last year, they finished 4th in the Catholic League.
Sure did.
And they want to make the trip to the Breslin. And obviously, they have Trey McKinney. They have the firepower to do it. They have the firepower again to do it this year. Brother Rice. They have some new pieces. They graduated 3 players from last year. And so now you're seeing guys with a little bit different role. In my opinion, Brother Rice is similar to what we saw in Ferndale a couple of years ago.
That's right.
Where you had so many seniors that were dominating, and then they wound up graduating. But then last year, you see...
What a run.
Yeah, and Ferndale barely finished above 500. If they did, over the overall season, they finished over 500. But I think they finished maybe 10-12, 11-11 or something like that in the regular season. But those guys started gelling at the right time. They started finding confidence in one another. They learned how to communicate, and they say, hey, you know what? We've been working hard just like everybody else. Let's go and put these things together. And I think that, Brother Rice definitely have the talent to make as far as run as they want.
Yeah, there is something we're saying. Scheduling the toughest teams you can. You need to be prepared for a variety of styles that teams are going to bring at you. Ferndale again would match up against anyone, and so yes, and we say this in football too. Sometimes it doesn't matter how you finish a regular season. Get in, and in basketball you are in. It doesn't matter. So we'll see where Rice goes. They're going to learn from some of what's happening right now. How about Ypsilanti Lincoln, number 24, entering the list?
Hey, you know what? I had to put Ypsi Lincoln in. They've only got one loss. They might not have played the toughest schedule, but they did beat an undefeated Ann Arbor Pioneer, which I thought was pretty big. Jesse Davis, I think he was kind of overshadowed when he wound up winning a state championship a few years ago with Amani Bates. It's great to see that he's kind of doing it, and I'm not going to say that he's doing it with a bunch of no-name guys and stuff like that. We're going to show respect to all the players, but at the same time, when you look at a guy like Amani Bates, who is now in the NBA on a two-way contract, that was the wow figure, and it's great to see that Jesse Davis is, kind of bringing everything together as his team. And I'm not going to say that Amani Bates is a distraction or anything like that, but when you're a freshman and you're a sophomore and you're on Sports Illustrated, or bound to go there.
King.
It's just one of those things where, it's kind of a distraction
right.
when you want to talk about the team. You want to talk about so much more about we than you want to talk about I or one individual player.
But it put the Rail Splitters on the map. And so it's a great gym. It's a great environment. And so, Ypsilanti Lincoln, it's good to see them picking the pieces back up now and showing that that wasn't a one and done. That they want to continue to be a force in basketball. So welcome to the top 25. One more. Let's talk about number 13, and that's Dearborn. Obviously, you've got a new coach at the helm, whether it's at the interim level or not. They're playing well.
Well, I think that when we look at Dearborn being undefeated and get to talk about some of the rivalries that they were going to have. They were going to play Fordson, and there was a chance that Fordson and Dearborn were going to be undefeated and play each other, and that was going to be the first time, since JFK was president or however far back you want to go. But Abe Mashur is now the interim coach. Abe Mashur, I'm not going to say that if you've been under the rock, but if you follow any kind of junior basketball here in the state of Michigan, there's not a coach that hasn't had a lot more success as far as longevity goes than Abe Mashur. He's had success at Schoolcraft. He's had success at Henry Ford Community College. Henry Ford Community College was pretty much written off as basketball and stuff like that. But now you have Abe comes in. They wound up having success going to the JUCO National Championships. He's got two sons. His older son, we're just going to go older Mashur, and then we're going to go Muhammad. Muhammad is his younger son, who's a junior, or actually the middle son on the team, because he's also got a son that's a freshman. Okay. So I'll say this: at 6'4", 6'5", been around the game their entire lives. Basketball IQ, their chemistry is very strong within each other. They're starting to buy in, and not only that, believing in what they can do. We were talking about it before the show. Hey, they wound up losing to the eventual state champions in Cass Tech last year, and there's a strong chance that they wind up meeting up again in either the districts or the regional finals again.
Close for making it to the Breslin. I mean, Cass Tech was a juggernaut at that point, playing as well as they had all season.
Yep, and to be honest, Dearborn was one of the toughest games that Cass Tech saw prior to getting to the Breslin. Let's say this. I mean, they might have had a pretty good quarterfinal matchup.
86-57 was the final, but again, matchups.
Yeah, and they were rolling. But I think that Dearborn, they're starting to figure out themselves. And not only that, they have a complete team. They've got 6'7" in the post. You've got guards that are bigger, in the Mashur brothers. And so you got some, and not only that, they can play the 1, 2, or the 3. And so it kind of gives them some versatility. And not only that, I know that, Dad's got to be kind of happy and stuff like that. He can kind of, let's say this, coach them up a little bit more than you would maybe somebody else's kid.
Yeah, exactly. And
as long as Mrs. Mashur agrees.
And this is something they'll always have as a family together, dad coaching. You're at your peak, position in high school, and who knows, man? They could make a run at this. We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see. We got them at number 13 right now. Lucky number 13.
Lucky number 13. The stars are aligning, and not only that, Abe was an assistant for the
Right.
team. He wasn't like
all the boys.
Yeah, so he knows everybody on the staff. He's been with them throughout the summer and team camps and all that stuff. So, yeah, shout out to the Tractor or the Pioneers.
All right, our final segment of the week, and we call this Future Forecast. This is where we want to let you know about some big games coming up, and we've got some big ones. All ranked teams. Let's start Orchard Lake St. Mary, currently sitting at number 5 in our state rankings. They will be hosting number 11 UD Jesuit on Friday.
Hey, and Orchard Lake St. Mary's, they have to get their get-backs. And get-backs, when we're talking about, they already lost earlier in the year on the road. Yeah. Now they get to come home to the Eagles' nest and see what's really going on. Home wins to me are so important in the Catholic League Central. If you don't get your home wins, then it's only going to hurt you when seeding, when the Catholic League playoffs come along. Obviously, nobody wants to be in 5th place because they're going to be out of the playoffs. But, shout out to University of Detroit Jesuit. Orchard Lake St. Mary's going to be one of the best games that we're going to find, and hopefully we'll be able to see that game again.
And let's get it right. It's the Eaglets.
Yes.
Nest.
Yes. I want to make sure the baby Eagles are out there.
Exactly. All right. The Gotta Get It Hoop Classic. It's a traditional event taking place at East Kentwood. This is on the weekend, on Saturday. Couple big matchups in that showcase. Number 6, Warren Lincoln taking on number 4, Grand Rapids Christian. Top 10 matchup.
I love it. And one of the most important things to me about this matchup, obviously you have the bigs in Owinga and Nate Johnson over at Grand Rapids Christian. Warren Lincoln, they get back one of their guards. That would be Marcus Blackwell, who has been out with, I think, a collarbone injury, something similar to that for the last month and a half. And so he'll be back. They wound up losing the game. They're only lost to Orchard Lake St. Mary's at the end of December. But Marcus was not playing on that. I mean, he's the guy that's got Division I offers. He's a junior on the team. At 6'2", he can really fill it up. And not only that, he gives the Wydell Henry Abes, the Warren Lincoln Abes, another fire, some more firepower. But they've got size in the middle. They're going to be able to match up very well, and I'm looking forward to that contest.
And then another matchup in that same showcase, number 2, East Lansing, taking on the host school, number 24, East Kentwood.
Mike Thomas, one of the best coaches in the state at East Kentwood. I think that Ray Mitchell is also one of the up-and-coming coaches as an assistant coach at Lansing Sexton, obviously winning back-to-back. The same time that was happening, Kalamazoo Central was winning. So they've both been in the same building. I'm talking about Ray Mitchell and Mike Thomas, two of the better coaches in the state, also two of the better programs, loaded with juniors. If you're looking at Ja Hatchett over at East Kentwood, if you're looking at any of the numerous guys over at East Lansing. And then you also have Christian Humphrey Rembert, who's a senior, unsigned senior, decommitted from Howard maybe a month and a half ago. And so that's going to be interesting at 6'9" to see how he can impact the game going against Cam Hudson from East Lansing and JL as well.
All right, so we got some great games. Make sure if you got games that you want to check out, these are some of our recommendations. Of course, State Champs will have some other coverage for you as well. Hangtime is here each and every week, so make sure you tune in. TJ's rankings come out on Monday, statechampsnetwork.com. That's it for this week's Hangtime. We'll see you later.
State Champs Hangtime is presented by Lawrence Technological University. Be curious, make magic. Hangtime is also brought to you by the Michigan High School Athletic Association, promoting the value and values of educational athletics. The Michigan Army National Guard, proud partner of the MHSAA. And the Detroit Athletic Club Foundation Athlete of the Year Award applications now being accepted until March 31st, 2024 for the male and female athletes of the year. Download the application today at dacathleteoftheyear.com. You cannot be nominated if you don't apply.